My sibling's secret cost me everything I loved. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. The ATM swallowed my card and flash contact branch like a verdict. I stood there in my EMT jacket, the night shift still ringing in my bones, and felt my stomach slide. When I called the bank, a calm voice told me my checking was frozen for suspicious linked activity. Suspicious link to what? To whom? I jogged home, breath fogging, and found Morgan already on my couch, shoes on, like always. Before you explode, my older sibling said, thumbs dancing over a second phone I didn't recognize. This is complicated, but it was for you. I'm Alex, 30, the one who shows up with jumper cables and casseroles. I patch strangers and make lists for family. I don't miss payments. I don't forget forms. My job requires clean records and boring reliability. If a background check hiccups, I could lose shifts. That's what the ATM felt like. Someone shaking the ladder. I climb half asleep after midnight calls. What did you do? I asked. Morgan gave me the look that used to get us extension after deadline in high school. Calm down, they murmured. I covered something. For you. For us. The second phone lit up with a notification. Patel signed. Repayment schedule. My skin prickled. Lawyer Patel? Why was my name on their screen? You're going to hear words like default and lien, Morgan said. Too breezy. But none of them matter if we stay united. In the kitchen, Jamie's mug sat in the sink, lipstick ring like a tide mark. Jamie had left early, avoiding the tension that crept into our house this past month as bills came late and Ruth, our mother, called to remind me to keep family business in the family. The phrase sounded like a lid pushed hard onto boiling water. I pictured Sunday dinner, Ruth frowning, Morgan charming, me counting breaths while a timer on a bomb I didn't build ticked under the tablecloth. What exactly did you sign? I asked. Morgan smiled with the old conspiracy. Only what you would have, if you'd seen the whole picture. I realized the truth wouldn't whisper from a screen, it would explode from a room. I heard myself ask a stranger's question. Why does your plan need my signature to survive? We grew up in a house where Morgan won every coin toss, and I learned to clap. Ruth says that's unfair. She says I remember feelings, not facts. But the facts are simple. Morgan's science fair project displayed on the mantle for years, my spotless report cards filed inside a drawer. At family dinners, Morgan told stories while I passed rolls, the choreography fixed like church. Alex is dependable, Ruth would sigh, meaning useful. Morgan was brilliant, meaning forgiven in advance. The joke stung because they were dressed in love. Alex color codes everything except their wardrobe, Morgan would say, and everyone laughed. I laughed too, until last month when, at Ruth's birthday, Morgan clinked a glass and thanked me for paying attention so I don't have to. The table roared. Jamie squeezed my knee under the tablecloth. I moved my hand away without meaning to. After dessert, Ruth pulled me aside. You know your sibling, she whispered. Don't make a scene. I hadn't made one. I was just tired of being the invisible plot device in Morgan's story. When we were teenagers, Morgan borrowed my ID to take an exam, insisting it was to save our family money. When we were 23, Morgan used my laptop to apply for an apartment after a roommate bailed, because their credit was misunderstood. Each time ended with Ruth smoothing my hair and telling me we were a team. Teams, I've learned, have positions. Mine was goalie, theirs was striker, Mom coached. So when the ATM ate my card and Morgan said, it was for you, my body remembered fluorescent halls and whispered apologies that never came. You can't do this, I said, voice low. You can't spend my future and call it family. Morgan rolled their eyes, as if I'd criticized a playlist. You always think small, they said. If you knew the size of what I'm handling, you'd thank me. Jamie texted from a double shift. Call me when Morgan leaves. We need to talk. I thought of talks that start with long exhales and end with someone packing a bag. Ruth called then, voice bright with dread. Sweetheart, keep your head. Morgan's under pressure. Don't embarrass us. I told her I was under pressure too, and she sighed like I'd missed the point again. Then the mail slot clacked, and a thick envelope thudded to the floor like a small, official threat. The envelope's return address read Civic Capital Recoveries. Inside, a notice of intent to accelerate a past due account, my name in bold where Comfort used to live. The balance was ugly. The original lender, was a bank I'd never used. I dialed the number, paced the kitchen, and learned a new language: consolidation, cross-collateralization, delinquency curves. "We have your e-consent," the agent said. "Signed 3 years ago from a device at your address." 3 years ago, I was living 2 neighborhoods away, pulling back-to-back nights during the winter flu surge. "Can you read the email used?" I asked. She did. It was my name plus a dot plus a number I didn't recognize. I hung up with my pulse in my ears. At work, HR flagged me for a routine credit review attached to my recertification. Routine, like a fire drill that smells like real smoke. My supervisor, kind but cautious, closed his door. "Anything I should know?" he asked. I pictured Morgan's second phone, Patel's name on the screen, Ruth's voice telling me not to embarrass us, Jamie's text asking for a talk. "Family stuff," I said, and hatred for that phrase warmed my face. He nodded slowly. "Keep me posted." I promised a version of the truth I didn't yet own. That night, Jamie and I sat at the table without eating. "I love you," they said, "but I can't live in a house where your sibling makes choices and we pay the interest." My mouth formed their name. No sound came out. Jamie's eyes were wet. "I'm not leaving," they added, "but I am stepping back until you set boundaries." The word boundaries felt like a country we hadn't visited. Morgan breezed in with 2 pizzas and a grin. "Crisis averted," they declared. I talked to Patel. "We'll restructure." I slid the collector letter across the table. "Restructure what?" I asked. They didn't flinch. "Debt is elastic," they said. "You don't get it because your job is tiny." Jamie stood. "Do not diminish Alex's work," they said, voice low. Morgan blinked, then smirked. "Look who found his spine." My phone buzzed. "Marcus, call me. Something's off with your credit file." I called from the bedroom. Door closed. "There's an email alias attached to your accounts," Marcus said. "Looks like your name with a burner domain. And a device ID that isn't yours." My heart dropped twice, once for my name, once for the person wearing it. I opened the door and found Morgan smiling at Jamie like a wolf wearing our family's last good sweater. The family dinner was supposed to be simple: Ruth's roast chicken, Morgan's charm offensive, me quietly watching the clock. But halfway through, Morgan raised a glass. "To Alex," they said, "who makes life so easy for the rest of us." Laughter followed, sharp as broken glass. Ruth dabbed her mouth with a napkin and said, "You do keep us afloat, honey." My chest tightened. Jamie's chair was empty. They'd skipped the dinner, claiming work. I envied the excuse. When dessert came, a processed server knocked. Ruth answered, flustered, then carried a thick packet to the table. "Alex, it's for you," she murmured, sliding it like contraband. I opened it under Morgan's watchful grin. Summons for delinquency on a personal loan, my loan. The air smelled of sugar and lemon zest, but the words tasted like iron. "Don't overreact," Morgan said. "These things look scarier than they are." Ruth hissed, not at the table. I looked around. The cousins, confused. Ruth, brittle. Morgan, smug. My appetite dissolved. Later, in the driveway, I cornered them. "Why my name?" I demanded. Morgan leaned on my car, arms crossed. "Because your credit's cleaner. Because you're dependable. Because you don't dream big enough to use it." I wanted to scream, but Ruth appeared, cardigan pulled tight. "Stop," she said. "The neighbors." Her voice was both command and plea. Morgan winked. "See? Even Mom knows." I drove home alone, summons on the passenger seat like a bomb I couldn't defuse. Jamie was waiting, arms folded. "I can't keep pretending this is normal," they said. "You need to choose, your siblings' mess or us." I opened my mouth to answer, but my phone buzzed. Marcus again, urgent. And what he told me next made Morgan's grin look like a warning. Marcus didn't waste words. "I pulled a copy of your credit file," he said. "There are accounts tied to your social security number that don't trace back to your devices." My pulse thudded. "How many?" "4," he replied. 2 credit cards, 1 line of credit, 1 personal loan. Opened over the past 3 years. Balances aren't huge individually, but together they're drowning you. I sank onto the bed. "And the addresses?" "Your mother's house," Marcus said. "Applications logged from her Wi-Fi. Device ID doesn't match yours." I pictured Morgan's second phone, always within reach, always buzzing with secrets. My skin crawled. The next morning, Ruth called. "You've embarrassed us," she said tightly. Collectors knocking, letters piling. Can't you let your sibling handle it quietly? Quietly, I snapped. It's my name, my life. Family comes first, she insisted. Don't humiliate us with drama. When I hung up, Jamie was packing an overnight bag. I need space, they whispered. I love you, but I can't keep drowning with you. I couldn't argue. Not with the summons on the table, the debt in my name, the hollow look in their eyes. That night, I found Morgan in our mother's driveway, laughing into that second phone. You think you're the victim, they said when I confronted them. But really, you're the resource. You've always been my safety net. Be grateful I trusted you. My fists clenched. You forged me, I said. You stole from me. They shrugged. It's only theft if you weren't meant to share. And then Marcus texted me a screenshot that confirmed how deep Morgan's betrayal ran. The screenshot showed an email chain, Morgan negotiating with a lender, attaching a scan of my signature. Only it wasn't my signature. It was a shaky imitation, the kind that looks right at a glance but collapses under scrutiny. My stomach turned. I called Marcus. Can this be proven? Yes, he said. The IP logs placed the submission from your mother's house on a device registered to Morgan. It's airtight. My hands shook as I printed the documents, each page heavier than the last. Proof wasn't liberation, it was a sentence. When I brought it to Ruth, she looked stricken. Don't show anyone, she begged. Your sibling will recover. Don't destroy the family over paperwork. Paperwork that could cost me my job, my partner, my future, I said. Her silence told me she'd already chosen. Jamie, meanwhile, drifted further. Phone calls went unanswered. At work, my supervisor warned. If this isn't cleared, certification renewal could be denied. That night, Morgan showed up at my apartment, eyes wet, voice trembling. Please don't make this ugly, they said. I can fix it if you stay quiet. I almost faltered, because beneath the lies was the sibling who once held my hand at Dad's funeral, who once promised to protect me from every bully. But then my phone buzzed with Marcus's latest message. Found another account. This one opened last month. Balance already 4 figures. My throat burned. How many more, Morgan? I asked. Their smile was sad, almost tender. Enough, they whispered. Enough that you can't walk away clean. And I realized my sibling's secret wasn't a mistake. It was a strategy. I couldn't sleep. The apartment felt smaller with Jamie gone, the walls echoing with their absence. I spread Marcus's findings across the kitchen table, printouts of statements, IP logs, timestamps. The pattern was unmistakable. Every account, every forged click traced back to Morgan. This wasn't an accident. It was architecture. Marcus called again. I think I know why they're doing this, he said. Your sibling's name came up in a bankruptcy filing from 2 years ago. They couldn't get credit on their own anymore. So they used you. The words hollowed me out. All those jokes about me being dependable, boring, predictable, they weren't jokes. They were reconnaissance, reminders that I was useful. I drove to Ruth's, binder on the seat beside me. She opened the door, eyes tired. Don't, she whispered before I'd said a word. If you expose this, you'll tear us apart. We're already torn, I replied. She shook her head, clinging to an image of family that had never really existed. When Morgan arrived, they breezed in with shopping bags, as if life were normal. What's with the gloom? They asked. I slid the binder across the table. Their eyes flickered, just for a second, before the smirk returned. You've been busy, they said lightly. But you still don't get it. Family is a shared account. Sometimes one of us takes more, sometimes less. You'll survive. I leaned forward. No, you survive by burning everything I built. Morgan's gaze sharpened. Careful, Alex. If you start a fire, you'd better be ready to stand in the smoke. And for the first time, I saw the threat behind their charm. After that night, I went underground. Marcus helped me pull statements, cross-reference dates, collect screenshots. Every piece slotted into a grim puzzle. Forged emails, fake addresses, even a credit card used to book flights I never took. The total damage was staggering, but the betrayal weighed more than the numbers. At work, my supervisor hinted my certification was on thin ice. Clean this up soon, he urged. The board doesn't care about family drama. Each word pressed down like a stone. Jamie came by once, suitcase still in the car. I want to believe you'll fix this, they said. But you keep protecting them. And it's costing us. Their voice cracked on the last word. I had no answer. I tried to confront Morgan again. this time outside a cafe. You've ruined me, I said, binder in hand. They laughed, sipping their latte. Ruined? Please. You're dramatic. This is just debt. Debt is temporary. Family's forever. Their casual cruelty snapped something inside me. Family doesn't forge signatures, I hissed. Family doesn't gamble with my life. They leaned closer, smiled tight. You think people will side with you? You, the boring sibling, the one who always fades into the background? Good luck convincing them. Marcus urged me to prepare a formal reveal. You need witnesses. Jamie, Ruth, people who will hear the truth directly. The thought terrified me, but the alternative, losing everything in silence, was worse. That night, I received another letter, wage garnishment notice. My knees buckled, and I knew the next confrontation couldn't wait any longer. Marcus and I spent the weekend building a timeline. Pages lined my walls. Dates, accounts, forged signatures, balances. Each arrow pointed to Morgan. It felt like a crime drama, except the villain was my own sibling. We'll do this clean, Marcus said. Gather the family. Put everything on the table. No yelling, just facts. His calm steadied me, though my hands still trembled. I called Ruth, told her we needed a family meeting. She resisted, but when I said, either we do this together or I go to the police, she agreed. The night of the meeting, I sat at the head of the dining table where Morgan once toasted my reliability. Jamie arrived reluctantly, arms crossed. Ruth fussed with napkins, eyes darting between us. Morgan strolled in last, whistling. What's this, an intervention? They teased. I opened the binder. This is the truth, I said. Page after page hit the table, forged forms, IP logs, signatures that weren't mine. The room went silent except for the shuffle of papers. Jamie leaned forward, eyes wide. You did this? They asked Morgan. Morgan laughed, but the sound was brittle. Oh, come on. Alex is exaggerating. You really think I'd steal from my own family? Marcus spoke up from the corner. The documents don't lie. The timestamps match your devices. This is an exaggeration. Ruth wrung her hands. Please, she whispered. We don't need theatrics. But I kept going, every page a wound reopened. Morgan's smirk faltered as I laid down the final document. A recent loan, signed in my name, balance already crippling. And in that instant, the mask they wore for years began to crack. Morgan's laugh rang hollow, bouncing off the walls like a bad echo. Forgery? Really, Alex? You think I'd waste time pretending to be you? Their voice was calm, but the tremor in their hand gave them away. Jamie pointed at the document. That's your handwriting. Look at the curve of the M. You can't deny it. Morgan's smirk returned, sharper now. Maybe Alex asked me to help once and forgot. Maybe they're embarrassed. They turned to Ruth. Mom, you know Alex. Always dramatic. Ruth looked down at her lap, unable to meet my eyes. The silence stung more than the debt. Marcus slid another sheet forward. These aren't just signatures. The IP address is traced directly to your second phone. He placed the printout in front of everyone. The evidence was undeniable. Morgan shoved the binder shut. So what? Money's just numbers. It flows, it shifts. You'll all thank me when the investments pan out. I slammed my hand on the table. This isn't money. This is my life. My career. My relationship. You've cost me everything I loved. Jamie's breath caught. Ruth whispered, Enough, please. But the word enough had lost all meaning. Morgan leaned in, eyes glittering with defiance. You don't understand, Alex. I never lose. Not to you. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't desperation. It was a competition they intended to win. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Ruth begged for calm. Jamie demanded answers. Marcus documented every word on his tablet. Morgan stood, arms crossed, like a defendant on trial. You always hated me, they spat. Because I shine and you don't. Because Mom loves me more. That's what this is about, isn't it? Not debt, jealousy. The accusation sliced deep, a blade sharpened by childhood memories. Ruth's eyes flicked to me, guilty, confirming truths I'd never wanted to name. Jamie shook their head. This isn't about jealousy. It's about fraud. About betrayal. Morgan sneered. You'll believe Alex over me? Really? Look at them. Shaking, stammering. Do they look like someone who can manage finances? I forced my voice steady. Maybe not. But I can manage truth. And the truth is here, on paper. Marcus pushed the binder back open, tapping the garnishment notice. The court already believes Alex. This is happening, whether you spin it or not. For the first time, Morgan's face paled. The bravado cracked, showing fear beneath. But then they straightened, masking it with anger. If you go through with this, Alex, you'll regret it. I'll take Jamie from you. I'll make sure your job hears more than rumors. I'll destroy you before I let you destroy me. The room went silent, the threat hanging like smoke. And in that silence, I understood my sibling's love had always been possession. I left the table trembling, binder clutched to my chest. Jamie followed me out onto the porch. You can't let this continue, they said, voice raw. If you don't draw the line now, there'll be nothing left. I nodded, though my heart ached. This was my sibling, my childhood ally, my rival, my shadow. But the shadow had consumed everything. Marcus called later that night. I've scheduled an appointment with lawyer Patel. Bring everything. We'll file affidavits, dispute the accounts, and request an injunction. The words felt clinical, but they were salvation. I gathered every document, every screenshot, every letter. Proof that my life wasn't reckless, but hijacked. Ruth phoned again, pleading, "Don't go to lawyers. You'll shame us." I answered quietly, "I'm already shamed, Mom. And you helped cover it." Her silence was confirmation enough. Jamie sat beside me as I sealed the folder. "This isn't just about debt, is it?" they asked. I shook my head. "It's about survival. And dignity." At Patel's office, the lawyer leafed through the binder with cool precision. "This is strong," he said. "But be ready. The fallout will be brutal. Families don't forgive public exposure." I exhaled slowly, the weight of years pressing down. Families don't forge each other's names either. Patel nodded. "Then it's time we take this to court." And I knew the next confrontation wouldn't be around a dinner table. It would be on record. Filing the case felt like detonating a bomb. Patel submitted affidavits, attached the forged documents, and sent letters disputing every account tied to my name. The court clerk stamped my petition, the sound like a gavel ending my silence. When Ruth found out, she called in tears. "Alex, please withdraw. You don't understand what this will do to Morgan." "I understand perfectly," I said. "It will do to them what they've done to me." Jamie stood by me in court, their hands steadying mine. Marcus testified to the digital trail, IP logs, device IDs, timestamps. Patel laid out the timeline like a surgeon opening a wound. Every lie bled into the open. Morgan showed up furious, dressed sharp but fraying at the edges. "This is character assassination," they shouted. The judge rapped the bench. "It's evidence," Patel replied calmly. Page after page landed before the court, undeniable. When the garnishment order reversed, relief flooded me. But it wasn't victory, it was survival. I looked at Morgan across the courtroom. Their eyes blazed, not with remorse, but with rage at losing. Afterward, Ruth refused to meet my gaze. "You could have kept this private," she said. "Now everyone knows." I answered softly. That was the point. And I realized some families would rather protect shame than protect their own. The fallout spread like wildfire. Friends called, shocked by the revelations. Relatives took sides, some whispering support, others condemning me for airing dirty laundry. At work, my supervisor finally cleared my certification renewal, though his eyes carried wary respect. Jamie and I tried to rebuild. They moved back in slowly, piece by piece, suitcase by suitcase. But the damage lingered. Nights we lay in silence, not touching, as if waiting to see if trust could regrow. Marcus checked in daily. "Paperwork's holding," he said. "You'll recover financially. The rest will take longer." His honesty kept me grounded. Morgan spiraled. They posted online rants, blaming me, accusing me of jealousy and betrayal. But the documents were public record now. Every accusation collapsed under the weight of proof. One night, Jamie whispered, "You've changed." I asked how. "You carry yourself taller. Like you're not apologizing anymore." Maybe that was true. Or maybe I was just too tired to bow. Ruth stopped calling. The silence was worse than her pleading. I wondered if she was protecting Morgan still, or just ashamed of herself. Either way, the cord between us frayed to nothing. And though I stood freer than ever, I felt the ache of everything I'd lost. Because sometimes survival costs more than surrender ever could. Months later, I sat in Patel's office signing the final clearance. My credit restored, accounts reversed, my name finally mine again. It should have felt triumphant, but grief tugged at the edges. I walked out into crisp air, binder in hand. Jamie met me on the sidewalk, slipping their arm through mine. "Done?" they asked. I nodded. At home, I opened the binder one last time. Pages that once crushed me now looked like scars, proof I'd endured. I considered burning them, but closed the cover instead. Some wounds you keep, not as chains, but as reminders. That night, I wrote in my journal, "Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who protects it." I thought of Marcus's loyalty, Jamie's steady return, and even Patel's quiet professionalism. They were my family now, stitched together by choice, not obligation. Morgan never apologized. Ruth never reached out. And maybe they never will. That truth still hurts. But I no longer let it define me. If you've been betrayed by someone you trusted most, know this: you can survive. You can walk through fire, through lies, through the weight of lost love, and still stand. Because in the end, dignity isn't given by family. It's claimed by courage. And for the first time in my life, I finally felt free.